Oh.
James, why the move to linebacker for Dakari, and how does it make sense for him?
Yeah, I think with a lot of these guys, we recruit them and bring them here based on kind of what position they played in high school. But right away, he was like 220 pounds and fighting it. Obviously we need a little bit more depth at linebacker, and you're looking at creative ways to solve problems. We had a conversation with him. He was open to it, and it's really been good for him and us. He's playing physical right now, showing up a lot in practice, making plays. I think he's excited about it. I get it. He's never done it before. You're kind of unsure, but I think his genetics were kind of telling him. And then an opportunity presented itself, and he's moved there. And so far, so good. He's done some really nice things.
James, we heard a little bit about him last week, but what's your confidence level right now on Trey Wallace being that number one guy?
Yeah, I think Trey and Liam have had really, really good camps. I think there's a lot of excitement within our program, and I think they've earned a lot of respect. They've really worked their tails off since the end of last season, mentally, physically, and have been very consistent. They've always shown flashes at times, but this camp they've been really, really consistent. So we have a ton of confidence in them. I think they're going to have big years for us. There's other guys as well that have had good camps, but those two guys definitely I think have been very, very consistent in terms of making plays, in terms of their assignments, in terms of their responsibility. I think Omari and Julian Fleming have been really good as well, but I think those two have really, really done a nice job.
James, you're less than 2 weeks out from the opener. What kind of progress do you think you've made during camp? Are you where you kind of hoped you would be, and are there a couple areas where maybe you aren't where you hoped you would be?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as you know, there comes a point where you just need to play somebody. It's hard to really determine. You see good things on tape. You have some concerns, some areas that you need to work on, but you're going against the same people every single day. So it's hard to really judge until you play somebody else. But in terms of where we're at, in terms of improvement, I'm comfortable with where we're at. I think there's some areas that we've taken some significant steps in. I think it's much more competitive right now between the offense and the defense. And I think all three coordinators have done a phenomenal job as well as some of the new players. So I think we're in a good place. I don't know if there's kind of an area that I would say right now that is overly concerning. It's more hard to determine until you play somebody else. It's hard to totally evaluate your roster until you've played somebody else.
James, last week we had a couple questions for you about those running backs battling for that third spot. It looked like they were back involved today at practice. Can you shed some light on how camp's been for Cam Wallace and for Quinn Martin, respectively?
Yeah, and I think Corey's worked his way into that discussion. I think Corey's done some really good things. I would say Cam Wallace right now is probably in the lead. But I think it's a battle between all three of them, and I think both Quentin and Corey will play this year. We'll see how this whole thing plays out, but I'd say, if we were playing tomorrow, Cam Wallace would probably be our third back.
Coach, from last year to this year, what level of improvement have you seen in Tony Rojas?
Yeah, I mean, you guys have seen just physically the transformation he's made. He's so much bigger and stronger. It's year 2. He's got a ton more of experience, so he's confident. It was interesting. I had my first year meeting that I have once a week with these guys to check in with them, and I had some guys like Tony come and talk to him. What do you know now that you wish you knew a year ago? And I just think he's very comfortable. He's very confident in the defensive scheme and his responsibilities in his role. And then physically, he's done a really good job of changing his body, and not in a way. Sometimes they put on too much weight and it affects your speed and quickness, and that's not the case with him. His numbers are as good or better, and has put on significant weight. You got to remember, he was 195 pounds when we signed him out of high school, and I would say that's probably more the model. A lot of times these high school linebackers, or really any position, they think they have to be bigger than what they really need to be. Sometimes, having them get here lean and let us put the right weight on them. I think Tony's a great example of that.
Mentioned a couple guys moving around. Jabin, we saw him with the guards a little bit today. How's he been taking to that? And, what's your idea of his season coming up?
Yeah, I think, as you know, we try to create as much position flexibility with the offensive lineman as we possibly can to be able to solve problems, but also to be able to look at guys at different spots. Some guys, you're surprised, you put them at tackle and they're comfortable in space. Like Donka had never played, as you guys know, in high school, never played tackle. Really for most of his freshman year, hadn't played tackle. We move him there in one-on-ones one day in practice. He does a really good job at it and takes off from there. Javen, we kind of move into guard, and you're not sure how he's going to handle that. And sometimes the lack of space makes him more comfortable. And he's shown signs that I think he can do both. So for us, we're just trying to create as much position flexibility. I think we have more answers right now inside. We want to make sure we have enough answers outside. So JB getting some more reps at tackle, which we think he can do that, has been valuable too.
James, how did you see Drew go about business to get to the point where his teammates would vote him as a captain?
Yeah, I just, I feel like, Drew's done everything right since the season ended. I feel like him and Bo have taken significant steps. And I think that vote is very, very telling, right? I don't, I'll let that go. I'm not going to get into that. But I think that vote is telling about how his teammates see him. And he's done everything right since the end of last season. I think Bo and Drew have really separated themselves and really done a nice job. I think over the last 2 weeks, those guys have really, really improved. And we're very excited about Grunk as well.
As you get close to getting ready to go to West Virginia, what will your schedule look like over the next week, 13 days until you get ready to go to Morgantown?
Yeah, so this is our last day officially of camp. We'll transition into West Virginia tomorrow. We've started to kind of cut back the time at practice and some of the reps because it's been a tough physical camp. To make sure that when we come, to West Virginia week, that our guys feel really good. Sometimes that becomes challenging because you got some bumps and bruises, so it reduces the numbers. But we will switch to West Virginia. We will go to scout teams starting tomorrow morning's walkthrough, D squads. And then tomorrow's practice will be West Virginia, what we call kind of a bonus Wednesday practice. And then Thursday, we'll have our Fast Thursday rehearsal, our No Sweat Thursday. And then Friday will be our Fast Friday rehearsal. And then Saturday, we'll have a developmental squad scrimmage in the stadium with West Virginia looks, with the coaches in the booth, the whole thing. So very similar to what we've done in the past. And then we'll get into, I think Saturday we practice early in the morning because I wanted the guys to have the whole day off to watch college football and go from there. And then we'll get into our normal game week.
James, back at the press conference and media day, you mentioned Tamian Robinson being someone who jumped out from day one. We're 3 weeks into it now. What was the body of work like for him this August?
Really good. He got sick for a couple days and missed a couple days of practice. Lost a few pounds. But overall, I would say we're very, very pleased with where he is. I think he'll have a significant role on special teams, and I think he'll have a much more expanded role on defense. I also could see him be one of those guys that plays a good amount early in the season, and by the midpoint of the season is playing a lot for us.
James, you said earlier about Jamin Williams at guard. Is that the normal thing where you teach guys both positions, or is that a change?
No, it's like I said, we try to create as much flexibility with our offensive linemen as possible and move them around to as many spots so that we can evaluate them and see if they have a chance to help. Some guys have only played tackle and you put them at guard and they're not comfortable there, or some guys latch onto it very quickly. and he did some nice things. So it's really just what we've done in the past.
James, kind of piggybacking off of Daniel's question about Drew, in what ways have you seen him grow and evolve as a person? Because obviously you guys have known him for a long time, just from then till now. In what ways have you kind of seen him grow and develop?
Yeah, he just, I don't think it's anything I'm going to say that is like, dramatic. He's really done everything right. He's always been a really good preparation guy in terms of being in the building, studying the installs, watching a ton of tape, asking great questions. Him and Bo are really good like that. So it's not like it's one thing. When you keep punching the clock and keep doing the right things, you get better and you gain confidence, you gain experience, the game starts to slow down for you. And I think it's all of that. I think it's his work in the off season. He's changed his body. He's lost about 10 pounds. I think he's running better, moving better. So it's just kind of like total development in every area. He's just gotten a little bit better because the way he works, the way he prepares, and the way he trains. And was voted by his peers as well as all the coaches and the staff as a captain because of how we all see he handles his business. Total respect within our program.
James, have you made decisions on green lights yet? And does the opener at a non-conference allow you to carry more kids and maybe go deeper with some of the yellows?
Yeah, so as you guys know, the non-conference travel's 80, so that helps. We did have some conversations yesterday, but we're not done with them, so I'll let you guys know as soon as we've talked to all the guys about where they're at. There's still some conversations that have to happen tonight, tomorrow morning. But I think being at 80 will help. And then we're also talking about taking a bus the morning of to let all those guys, it's a close enough game to allow the whole roster to travel, which would be great because as you can imagine, it's going to be our 250 versus their 70,000 or whatever the number may be. So I think that'll be good. But I think for the most part, the conversations between the players and their position coaches, they had a pretty good idea where they were. I do think it's changed, right? The 4 games changes things. When you're talking about possibility of playing 9 games this year and still redshirt, I mean, that's dramatic. So if you can be strategic, like I'll give you a perfect example. You use Quentin and Corey really as like one person, right? You play one guy in one game, you play another guy in another game, and you kind of spread that out throughout the season. Those guys are able to play in 4 games each and then all of the postseason and save their eligibility. I think some of them would like to say, I'm a green light from an ego standpoint, but until we're forced to make that decision, why not maximize the 4 games? And then once the decision's been forced by a bump or a bruise or a helmet breaks and somebody's got to go in, let's be strategic as we possibly can. I know Jordan Hill visited with the first-year guys the other day, and one of the things he talked about is, he ended up playing as a true freshman. At first was on the D squad, kept doing a great job on the D squad. They moved him up, and then he talked about, his senior year where he got drafted and where he would have got drafted if he would have redshirted and came back for his, redshirt senior year. Probably would have got drafted at least a round higher. So just taking all these things into consideration, where are they going to be most valuable for Penn State in their careers, and where are they going to be most valuable for themselves as well.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.